Hello, Cadre. As you can easily tell who this is and where I am located, I'm in the classroom. And I want to do a series of videos that will get us caught up with all the kind of things that we should be looking at when we talk about policy and politics, particularly the leading dimension of both of those. So this is one of the first videos, and hopefully this will work out. I'm taking it on my iPad and got a new tripod and holder, thanks to Dade for suggesting that. So maybe this will work out and help us, because I've done some videos but can't seem to get them loaded onto Blackboard, and I think I figured out a way to do that with the videos that I'm doing right now. So what I want to talk about today, Tumbling Stones. This is a metaphor, and I think it's a great mental model for the politics of policy, new ideas, new programs, new concepts, and those kinds of things. And it's basically an idea that was first hit the public scene, at least, by Stephen Jobs when he was president of Apple. And he was talking about the notion of tumbling stones, and of course, what in the world would that be? And this has to do with the fact that where he lived, there was a 80-year-old man who lived up the street a couple of houses from him, who one day saw him outside playing, and he said, young man, he said, come into the garage, I want to show you something. Well, of course, you realize that that was 40 years ago or more, and probably something that you'd want to tell your children not to do, but at least at that time it was okay. And so he went up to the garage, and there was he had out on his workbench a tin can, a little thing with a motor, a band, some water, and some other things looked like you could mix together. And he said, do you know what this is? And of course, Stephen said no, he didn't. He said, well, we'll show you. So they go out in the backyard and just pick up some rocks, and Stephen Jobs he asked him about certain kinds of rocks. He said, no, he said, the more ordinary they are, the better sometimes, but all kinds of rocks can go in there. So they picked up a number of rocks, came in, put the rocks inside this coffee can-like thing, put some water, some grit powder in there, put the lid on it, stuck it on the machine, wound the band around it, turned it on, and of course it just made a heck of a racket. And he told, the old man told Stephen to come back tomorrow, and we'd take the rocks out and see what had happened to them during that time. So the next day he motions to Steve to come up to the garage to show him. They takes the container, the can, so to speak, off of the polishing device, and opens it up, spreads the rocks out on the counter, and they've turned it from these very ordinary, oftentimes ugly rocks into some very polished kinds of stones that had their own beauty. And you may recall seeing this in a PowerPoint. In fact, you may want to look at the PowerPoint as we go along here. That was for April, beginning with slide 16, and it goes through several slides, but you may want to look at some of these because it may help you help deal with the concept. Well, anyway, the point of this whole thing is that he said, well, this is kind of like how teams work. And he was trying to get the point across to his own teams that when you really do teamwork, you're going to have these things like a lot of noise, and you're going to have people brushing up against each other, and you're going to have a lot of rattling and screaming around kinds of things. You're going to have a little heat produced and so forth, and that's just the natural way that politics around an idea or around an office tends to work. And basically, though, at the end, what comes out at the end is something a whole lot more beautiful than when it went in. And he said, a lot of us are like these rocks. We're not very polished. We're pretty ordinary. Some of us even would tend toward the, I was going to say ugly, but less than beautiful side of things. And yet, through the process of interacting with other people, realizing that there's different kinds of points of view about something, that you can brush up against each other, you can make a lot of noise, create some heat and friction, but when it comes out at the end, it's going to be a more beautiful and better product than that which went in. And so teams and organizations and systems like schools are going to benefit when they have this kind of open sense of We're going to bump up against each other. We're going to collide from time to time. We're going to make some noise. Some people are going to get mad. We're going to create some heat. But in the end, we'll all come out better off because we've done that. And this has to do with basically the kinds of things that you hear about Tumbling Stones, particularly artists, who will tell you they didn't paint a picture, they brought it to life. Or the carver who says, no, I didn't create this mask or this head or this statue, I brought it out of the wood. Lots of Native American sayings about the images came to them, it wasn't their image, or that, again, in the carvings, particularly like the totem poles and things like that, those images were already in the wood, the carving just took the old wood away and brought the image out of it. And it also means that together we're smarter than any one of us. In other words, you could put the most beautiful rock in the world in that can with those other ordinary rocks, and it changes nothing other than the beautiful rock stands out. And what you want is in teamwork is not that one individual stands out, it's that the whole team benefits. And so you put that beautiful rock in there with the old ones, it'll tumble around, it'll make some noise, it'll create some friction and heat, and it will polish it to another level, maybe even deeper than it was, but everybody else is going to be polished as a result of that. And that's an important part, that if you're going to talk about leadership, we're destined to fail, I think, unless, or we're destined to either fail or not have ideas or programs to be the best they could be if we're afraid of the noise, the heat, the friction caused by the politics of an idea of bumping up against each other. And so what a leader does is tries to create those kinds of settings where people, in fact, are expected to bump up against each other and argue and, the forming, storming kinds of actions, so that there's a sense of trust, there's a climate of problem solving, there's a climate of has everybody else's best interests at heart, and the embracing of the Tumbling Stones by a team is going to create more ideas, more efficient ideas, better problem solving, and of course better teamwork. That'll be an investment for the future. So that's the model of the Tumbling Stones. Stephen Jobs is responsible for it, but I think it's an important piece of the whole policy conversation. This is the end of this video.